to get worse. And I believe that this is the issue that the polls are not picking up on. And we all agree on the main reason that the system is broken, and that's big money. It has corrupted everything at every level. It controls people. It manipulates processes. It engineers outcomes. I mean, all we have to do is look around, and we see that big money is getting everything that it wants, and we are not getting anything that we need. Now, at this point, our candidates like to talk about overturning Citizens United. We must overturn Citizens United. And yes, we need to do that. But Democrats have been talking about that for 16 years, but they've done absolutely nothing about it. I don't know about you, but I am frustrated by that fact. So that frustration gave birth to a plan. I have a long-term strategic plan for how to get big money out of politics. And this campaign is the beginning of that plan. Now, it is a solid plan, and when I describe it to people, they like it. But it takes time to describe, and I've only got 3 minutes. So I talk about it a lot on my social media. Please go visit Josh Aber from Nevada, and you can find all about it there. Now, I have people tell me all the time that I'm not doing things the right way. But people have been doing things the right way and not getting this done. Doing things the right way is what has brought us to this point. So I think it's time for us to try to do things a little bit differently. And for us to do that, we need people who do things differently. And my campaign is proof that I do things differently. This group is proof. My whole life has been defined by doing things differently. I got a PhD in physics at age 45. I have driven real change through large institutions. I even tried to launch a political movement at one point, and I learned a lot from that process. So I am prepared to do this. And the Republic is hanging by a thread. We have got to focus on fixing it, or we are going to lose it. This is not the time to play it safe. This is not the time to stick to the playbook. People are desperate for real change, and they are hungry for a candidate who is prepared to deliver it, and I am prepared. I have been preparing this campaign for years. I have been focused on fixing the system for a decade. There is nobody who is more committed to getting this done. My name is Josh Aber, and I am running for Congress to try to get us busy fixing this broken republic.
Hi everybody, my name is Mark Jolly, pronounced Mark Jolly, and I've been living in Nevada for about 20 plus years now. I'm actually from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm sure you guys can tell by my thick accent. But I came out here to do archaeology. I did that for the better part of a decade. I've walked most of this state, eaten in every diner, drank in every bar, and I have been out there and seen what people are talking about, see how they live. I now own a small business here in town, and I've been raising a family, but it's been getting harder and harder to do that. Home prices are growing up. Commercial real estate prices are going up. That affects me directly. I see that the prices for things are going up in a commensurate rate. I have to pay more in overhead. I have to pay my guys more because they have to be able to pay rent, which means everybody else has to pay more. This is driving inflation. No one's doing anything about it. No one seems to care when they get to Washington. They are too busy trying to stay in the center and not provide for the people who got them there. They seem to forget about us. I'm tired of that. After the first and second No Kings rallies, I decided that I needed to do something, step up, try and do something about Mark Hamadeh being in this seat. And I decided to put my a wild ride ever since. But what do I stand for? Well, I'm just going to say it. I'm a leftist. I stand for feeding hungry people, putting roofs over heads, making sure everybody's got health care. Guys, these are things that a society that's functional could be providing for people. The reason it's not is because of choices. Politicians are a part of that choice, and if the ones who are there aren't going to make the right choice, then I will. I'm not a centrist. I'm somebody who is pretty far out to the left, but that means change. That means trying to move in a different direction. If you guys feel that voting for somebody in the center is going to get you something different, maybe you haven't been voting in the last 40 years like I have. It doesn't change that way. So I agree with Josh. All of us are different. We are not going to be voting that way, and I'm pretty sure that if any of us get there, we're going to be making some changes. Again, my name is Mark Jolly.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for being here. My name is Gamaliel Zavala Enriquez. You can call me Gami Enriquez. My sister coined Gami when we were kids. She couldn't pronounce my first name. All of these folks up here on stage are terrific. We are going to agree on the final ends, the objectives. We're probably going to disagree on how to get there. And so, where I believe the road to the pursuit of happiness lies is with a strategic response to 50 years of economic inequality in this country. I am running on a bold, progressive economic platform, universal policies from cradle to grave, with a universal set of baby bonds, universal child care, universal parental leave, universal health care, and at the center, a universal basic income, just the way we had during the pandemic. Alaska has shown us for the last 50 years that this is possible. They fund it through petroleum. We're going to fund it by going after Tesla, Amazon, the mining industry. So I want to put $1,300 cold, hard cash, no conditions, no questions, into the pocket of every Nevada. Why am I running on this platform? My road to getting here is very unconventional. As a result of economic inequality, I dropped out of college right after 9/11, became homeless. During the Great Recession, I got entangled in the criminal justice system because in America we criminalize poverty. But I got back up, earned my degrees while working minimum wage jobs, surviving on SNAP. I have a political science degree, master's in public administration and policy from UNR. I currently DoorDash in addition to having a coffee importation business from Colombia along with a partner. The data says that the cost of everything is on everyone's minds. Our affordability challenges are just getting worse. These are universal. They do not discriminate. Left, right, center, etc. Which is why I believe that the path forward are universal economic policies for all. Thank you.
I'm a little shirtless.
Just tip it down.
Okay, so my name is Morgan Wadsworth, and I'm actually a sixth generation Nevadan. My family has been in the state for a very, very long time, mostly as ranchers and union construction workers, electricians, things like that. You know, we've always been a working class family in this state, and the state means a lot to me. I myself was born right here in Reno, Nevada. I went to school here, graduated high school here. I'm currently a student at UNR after taking several years, gap years. During COVID, I was a neuroscience student. I wanted to go to medical school. I wanted to go to Stanford Medical School because they helped my grandfather my whole life because we did not have the neurologists and the neurosurgeons here in Northern Nevada to take care of him. He was shot in the head when he was 15 and miraculously survived and ended up struggling his whole life with strokes and multiple brain surgeries. So I always wanted to be a doctor and be a doctor here in Nevada in our rural hospitals. We are chronically understaffed in our rural hospitals. I'm 27 years old, and in the year 1999 when I was born, we were ranked last in healthcare access, ranked last in education, childcare, and again, I'm 27, it's 2026, and we are still ranked at the bottom for so many things. And to me, that just means what we've been doing is not working. We need bold new change. We need new people in office at the state and federal level. We need new voices. We need new energy. We need new ideas. And I would like, to be a part of that. These are the communities that raised me. This is a very important state to me. We need to go to DC, and like many of what they have said is, we need change. Things are getting bad in DC at the federal level. Not a lot of people have hope. The cost of living is going up. Healthcare is becoming unaffordable. School is becoming unaffordable. Housing is becoming unaffordable, especially for my generation. We are inheriting one of the worst job markets, one of the worst housing markets, some of the most expensive student loan debt. We are living with our parents more than any other generation. We're in a crisis across this country and in this state, and we need to get a handle of it, and we need to go to DC and not play softball. We need to play hardball. We need to get answers for what Doge did when they were in our government. We need answers to the Epstein files. We need a wealth tax. We need to focus on our country and not on foreign wars and aggression across the ocean. It's time to actually be what the Republican Party says, and actually be America first, and actually invest in our communities and our states. We also, here in Nevada, our natural resources are under attack with the data centers. We need to get that under control immediately. We do not have the water for it, but our politicians take a lot of money from the people who want to build these data centers, so they're allowing it to happen. And we're not going to have water. We're not going to have resources for our communities in a couple of years if we allow them to keep building all these data centers here. So that's another thing that we really need to get under control. We need to put Nevada first and America first and actually mean it. So thank you guys.
Hey. Well, my name is Samuel White, and I was born and raised in Carson City. I've been working class Nevada my entire life. I spent some time all across the rurals fencing off abandoned mines out there. I spent some time as a wildland firefighter. I'm currently a bus driver up in Tahoe. And I'm up here today because, as everyone has been saying, things here are just becoming unaffordable. I know for myself, it's looking more and more like a pipe dream that I'll ever own my own home, and I know that's the truth for a lot of people in the generation behind me. I know that's true for friends. I know that's true for family. That it's not just housing. It's also our healthcare system, our food systems, everything. Just everything we have out here is becoming more and more and more expensive. And we need people from the working class, people who are here living their lives, boots on the ground in Nevada, to go to Washington and actually make changes for the people that live here and that need those changes to happen, not in 10 years, they need to happen, unfortunately, now. And so we need someone with that kind of urgency to go there and make those changes. Thank you.
Great, thank you, candidates. And just for full disclosure, Morgan Wadsworth, Brian Wadsworth, no relation. My family's been here for a lot longer than 7 generations.
Yes. So he's actually indigenous to Nevada, so he's going to be way longer than mine.
just to say more, I can say when I ask questions. So we are going to do a lightning round. So I'm going to stand over here and I'm going to ask the questions, and then the candidates are going to raise a red or green check mark if they agree, yes or no. So we'll get going. So regarding systematic reform, do you support the Big Band Money Amendment, yes or no?
I want to make sure I got this right. My eyes. I already have highlighted. So
Okay, you all right. Remember, is yes or no? Should Congress ban stock trading by members? Yes or no? Alright. Will you work to end the two-party system? Yes or no? All yeses. Should we uncap the House? Yes or no? Ooh, a little bit of disagreement. Do you want to?
So should I do it at the end or do it now?
Do it again. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, that one. Should we end the filibuster? Yes or no? Okay. We'll mark that one. Should the presidential pardon be eliminated? Oh, okay. Another question one. Do you support congressional term limits? All right. Another disagreement? After each round?
After the round, 3 seconds.
Okay, so go back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go back and allow the candidates time to explain themselves on their answer. So the first one, which was it we work to end the two-party system? Yeah.
I agree.
Or should we uncap the House?
That one I had some.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
get here there. And that's why we have Christmas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark Jolly again. So I'm just a little bit concerned when it comes to uncapping the House. It hasn't been uncapped in a long time. I do think that representative democracy is literally the only way that we can have fairness in society. However, I don't want for there to be a cacophony of voices and for everything to grind to a halt by having representatives that are like in the high 800s to 1,000. I think that's going to create a lot of back channels. I think it's going to create a lot of gridlock. And frankly, we need stuff to happen right now. So am I against it? No, I'm not necessarily against it. But do I want for things to be able to work quickly because we need an efficient response to things? Yes. So I'm okay with uncapping the House as long as there are some guardrails to make sure that things keep moving. There you go.
Thank you. So,
So again, Josh Hebert. I agree with uncapping the House. I actually want us to double the size of the House of Representatives because I believe we need to go to multi-member districts. One of the problems that we have right now, we look at the maps right now and we see all of the red, which is mostly land, and all of the blue, which is mostly people, gives us a really false idea of what the country is all about. If we actually had multi-member districts where we had a minimum of 2 members in each district, where the top 2 vote getters get elected, then what that would mean is we would immediately get much better representation. For example, in Congressional District 2, we would most likely get a Democrat and a Republican. Whereas in some places, say like in West Texas, maybe you get a Republican and not an independent, but a libertarian. Maybe in San Francisco, you get a Democrat and a Green Party person or a socialist. We would be able to break the 2-party system, which is something that we all want, and have much better representation in Congress. And I believe that doubling the size of the House is not going to be unmanageable. We have all kinds of ways that we can communicate now. It's easy for us to make coalitions and bring people together and have leadership. Right now, we have very authoritarian rule in the House. So I would like to see things be more democratized in the House. And I think having a larger House would help make that happen. And I think doubling it keeps it within a reasonable size. Thank you.
anybody else want to pick that up? All right. So the next question we had a little disagreement on was, should we end the filibuster?
I said a yes, no, or like a maybe, undecided, because I can see the pros and cons to both. It's kind of a tool used by the minority party to stop legislation. It's also a tool used, it's, to me, I can see the pros and cons to why we should keep it, why we should not. However, I do believe that if we have a majority party, how much do we want them to be obstructed by things like the filibuster? So for me, I'm just like, I'm on the fence about it. I'm not really sure how I feel about ending the filibuster, or what we would put what guardrails we could put in place to ensure minority parties don't get steamrolled in the Senate and things like that. If there's legislation that that they strongly disagree with. And I haven't really done a lot of research either on what it would look like to end it. So that's why I'm like, I'm kind of undecided on an opinion for that.
Hi, Josh Aber again. I have supported ending the filibuster for well over 20 years at this point. It has prevented us from getting anything done. It is one of the big reasons that we are not able to accomplish anything. And the Senate is already unrepresentative. So having the filibuster makes these small states that much more powerful. They're able to block anything from getting through. And it prevents us from having parties being held responsible for the legislation that they try to pass. Because all too often, they can try and propose legislation that they know is not going to get through because of filibuster, and we get all of this posturing kind of politics. And I think if people had to be more responsible about the legislation that they were putting forward, knowing that it had the likelihood of passing, that we might get better legislation out of Congress. So I think the filibuster has been destructive to our democracy, and I would like to see it go.
Next question, should the presidential pardon be eliminated?
So I say no because I believe that we need to have better presidents elected with moral character, right? And unfortunately, the system continues to produce more extreme leadership. This is why I am very much supportive of dealing with the root cause of that system that is decaying and producing more extreme leadership. And that is economic inequality. This is why I am running on bold progressive economic transformation with universal basic income of giving everyone $1,300 once a month, because if we look at Germany, right, fascism came about precisely because of economic inequality, economic insecurity, and so we need to address the root cause that produces presidents that just don't give a damn. Thank you.
I think the presidential pardon has to go away. I don't like the idea of the judicial system relying on the capricious hands of one person. That's not what democracy is about. That's not what our Supreme Court's about. We've got 9 people who are making a decision on something finally, and I'm sorry, but it has been abused more times than it has done any good. I don't want for him to be able to pardon himself. I don't want that to be on the table. I don't want for it to be on the table that he can pardon his allies, that he can sell it to people, which is currently what's happening. And I don't want to rely on heroes. I want a system that works correctly. A presidential pardon basically says that the system's broken and this is our stopgap solution, and whether the person's good or not, well, we'll just hope that they are. I don't like that. We need a better system. So presidential pardons, go away. No chance. Or at least maybe put him under review by the Supreme Court. So there we go.
All right.
Just adding to the elimination of presidential pardons, again, just to highlight that what it's being used for now, I mean, is where that power ends up. It's why we see everyone in Doge was willing to do the damage they could, and they have stated it was because they knew they could get a presidential pardon. And so this is not something that theoretically could be abused. It is being abused right now. Thank you.
All right, so last question of this round. Do you support congressional term limits?
Okay, so I do not support congressional term limits. I would not vote against them if there was a big movement for it, but they haven't worked. We have term limits here in Nevada, we have term limits in California. They have not produced the things that were promised of them. What happens with term limits is that we end up reducing the institutional knowledge of the people in the legislature and empowering the lobbyists because they're the ones who are there for a long time. So they have more power, they have more knowledge, they understand the system better than the legislators who are there. What I want to do is fix the system that we have for elections so that elections do what they're supposed to do. And we are able to actually challenge incumbents, to reduce that power of incumbency. So have things like caps on spending, which the Ban Big Money Amendment would allow. Have things like public financing of elections. Have it so that candidates, when they cross a certain threshold, have access to public media so that they can actually get their message out there. And make it so that it's more possible for people to compete against incumbents and create that culture of challenging people. So that's what I'm for. I'm for fixing the elections so they do the job that they're supposed to do. I also think that term limits deny people representation that they might like. If they have a fantastic legislature and after 12 years that person's gone, they could end up with somebody who's not as good. And I don't like that either. So if there was a big movement to get rid of term limits, I would not stand against it, but it's not something that I support.
All right, so next we're going to talk about election reform. So the first question, do you support open primaries, yes or no? Should the Electoral College be abolished? And do you support universal mail-in ballots? Should Election Day be a holiday? Should partisan gerrymandering be banned? Do you support campaign finance reform? And then do you support the SAVE Act? All right, so our first question, do you support open primaries? Who wants to go first?
I guess that was it just me?
All right, so the idea that sits wrong with me about open primaries is currently to vote in this Democratic primary, you have to be a Democrat. So that means you guys who are Democrats get to choose between us. If it's an open primary, it's not just you, it's also MAGA gets to choose which one of us goes forward. And I think that just seems unconstitutional, or not unconstitutional, but it just seems unfair. If you're subscribed to the Democratic Party, you're subscribed to it because you believe in the ideals of it. So you should be able to put forward a candidate who matches your ideals. And when it's an open primary, it means anybody can vote even if they don't hold the foundational beliefs of the party that your candidates are part of. Thank you.
One of the big reasons why I support open primaries, specifically in Nevada, is we have more nonpartisans than we do either party, and primaries are publicly funded. And now the majority of people can't vote in them unless they change their party. I do see what Sam is saying, and I have talked to some other people that were against open primaries. So my biggest, we talked about a lot of other things like campaign finance reform, all of those things that could make it easier for third-party candidates to get on the ballot anyway. We wouldn't need open primaries, but I think, in a state like Nevada, where the culture here is just very skewed, very heavily nonpartisan and independent, and these things are publicly funded, then they should be allowed to vote in them. So that's kind of my main reasoning for supporting open primaries. I think that there's some other ways that we could fix that, like ranked choice voting and kind of rolling back on some of the power of the two-party system in other ways, but I do think right now, and in a state like Nevada, when you have so many nonpartisans and now they can't participate in the primary unless they change their party, but it's a publicly funded election, and that to me that seems unfair. So.
Yes, I do. And as a matter of fact, I was a lead activist for question 3 from a few years ago, open primaries, top 5 ranked choice voting in the state for the reasons that Morgan mentioned. Additionally, though, the data says that this reduces the extremism, the polarization, and the government dysfunction. So, yes, I do support open primaries. Thank you.
All right, the next question, do you support universal mail-in ballots?
Okay, so I was mixed up as well. So I love mail-in ballots. I love being in a state where everybody gets mail-in ballots. But I also understand that the Constitution gives authority over the administration of elections to the states. So my only opposition to universal mail-in ballots is that it's the federal government imposing something on the states as far as their election administration goes. And at the end of the day, I am somewhat of a federalist, and I like states to be able to make their own decisions about how they want to run their elections. So that's my only opposition to universal mail-in ballots. So I support mail-in ballots, I love mail-in ballots, but I want the states to be able to make their own decisions on that.
I'm from the South. I kind of get a little bit triggered when somebody says states' rights at me. I like choice. I want for people to have the right to vote. It should not be a decision as to the state to be able to tell somebody that they can only vote a certain way. Everyone needs to be able to have this at whatever level that they want it, period. Across the nation, period. So I don't want to put up any kind of barriers to somebody being able to get their vote out. It's important. It's a part of everybody's freedom. This is just another avenue to have it. And so mail-in ballots, this is actually the question that I fought to put on the thing, very close to my heart. I want for people to be able to have freedom. This is how they can achieve that. So yeah, no, this needs to be standard across the nation.
And then just for anyone who doesn't know, the Trump administration has changed the way that the post office marks your mail, and it is possible for it to be delayed. So if you do get your mail-in ballot and you do mail it in, make sure you mail it in early, make sure you get it stamped by the post office when you turn it in, so that way they have a record of when you dropped it off, because they're trying to prevent people from voting.
All right, so our next round of questioning is regarding health, welfare, and housing. Do you support universal health care, yes or no? Do you support universal child care? Do you support a universal basic income? Should we codify Roe v. Wade at the federal level? Do you support gender-affirming care? Do you support diversity, equity, and inclusion? Do you support housing as a human right? Do you support food as a human right? Do you support public housing? Would you support and push for a vacancy tax on rental units? Do you support rent stabilization in the form of a cap on any increase? And then, would you support a national moratorium on evictions? I'll give it a couple of disagreements here. So the first one, do you support a universal basic income?
So again, I'm going to kind of out myself here, leftist. So I believe that as a foundation of any society, the benefit of being in a society should be that we can provide certain things. Housing should be a guarantee. Food should be a guarantee. Transportation, healthcare, clean water, education, all of these should be the standard that everybody gets just for being a person. We can already do this. The fact that we're not is just because of how we have structured our society and because of what's called cultural inertia. I am for having all of these things as a standard. And if all of these things are covered, if you know that you can go home at night and have a roof over your head, know you can get an education, you can travel to a job, you can be fed, you can be taken care of when you're sick, what's the need of a universal basic income? And I asked my oldest the other night, I was actually giving her these questions, like, well, what do you think about that? She didn't really quite understand what a UBI was, a universal basic income. And I told her, well, you get money for all of this stuff. You just get money. Everybody would get it. Oh, even a billionaire? Yes, even a billionaire would get it. Everyone gets it. Well, then what's to stop a landlord from just charging more? That was her first question. Didn't even take her a second. So I support universal basic income as a bridge. But the goal has to be establishing a foundation. That's where I stand.
I think that even as a bridge, it will fall short. And I'm tired of seeing half measures in Congress. So I agree with everything Mark said. I think everyone should have housing, food, healthcare. And I think UBI will have the same faults that the minimum wage at the federal level does. Where currently the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, and it's unlivable.
So of course I support a universal basic income because if we look at Alaska, inflation is not a concern, it's not a reality, it's not a fact, and we have 50 years of data to prove it. Reason why is, unlike during the pandemic, where the stimulus checks did come from the Treasury, with Alaska and my proposal, the universal basic income will come from billionaires paying their fair share. Additionally, universal basic income is a term that is generally used on the left, on the liberal side of the political spectrum, but actually it's a nonpartisan concept. It's a nonpartisan public policy solution because with Alaska, which is typically on the conservative libertarian side, they like it because of small government, right? Personal responsibility, folks get direct payments. And so this is why I believe that a universal basic income or a freedom dividend or a citizen's dividend is the key to victory, not only for the primary, but for the general election as well, because it is, again, going back to the affordability and high cost challenges that we all have. I believe that folks throughout Nevada would really appreciate $1,300 once a month, no conditions, when the data says that 60 to 70% of us are living paycheck to paycheck. Thank you.
All right, our next question was, do you support rent stabilization in the form of a cap on any increase?
I guess I said that I was opposed to this one because, yeah, I was kind of 50-50 on this one. I guess it depends on how it's instituted and how we do these things at the federal level. I don't know that like rent stabilization is something that occurs at the federal level. So it would have to be how it's implemented. So there's mixed information on how rent stabilization works. Like it can work on a short-term basis to help keep people in their places. But on a long-term basis, it ends up distorting property development. And then that gets into the question of how do we want to do property development, which we can talk about when we get to housing. So I know that everybody on the stage wants to see more public property development. So maybe that changes those dynamics. But in this private market that we have right now, rent stabilization ends up reducing the development of housing, and we can't really afford that right now. But we also want to keep people in their homes. So this is one of those questions where I'm still learning more about this one. I've looked at this a lot, and then I'm learning more about it now for more people who are behind rent stabilization. So that's why I'm kind of wishy-washy on this one.
I can speak in favor if you'd like, but go ahead. Go ahead.
So in favor of rent stabilization and a rent cap, the idea is that it would be a percentage of a percentage of inflation. So that way your rent is not going up at above what the inflation is per year. And with right now where we're having corporate ownership of residential housing, what's driving the prices up is profit margins. And so I think we need a cap on that, because even with public housing, people are still gonna want to own their own properties or rent from other people, and it's just to make it affordable, and they don't see their bills suddenly jump by hundreds of dollars a month just because someone wants to make a little bit more money.
Yes, I do support rent stabilization for a variety of reasons, but I'll just mention one. I view it as kind of a tax on the poor. If we look at what Wall Street did during the economic crash, right, we are still living through the negative consequences of 2008 to 2009, and a lot of folks are renting through no fault of their own. It was because of fraudulent practices that Wall Street peddled, right? So I do feel that it is effectively a tax on the poor, and we cannot be in support of housing as a human right and be opposed to rent stabilization. It doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
So the last question, would you support a national moratorium on evictions?
I mean, there are definitely people who, like if you have somebody who's trashing your place and you need to get them out, if you have a national moratorium on evictions, then you can't get rid of them. So I think this is, again, one of those things where if you make a blanket statement about something, that you end up protecting people who we don't actually want to be protecting. So a moratorium on evictions, I think, needs to be crafted more carefully than something that's broad like that. So like in COVID, when we had a moratorium on evictions, then that was definitely something when it was worthwhile. And we need to, in the system that we have now, like if somebody is in your place and they stop paying rent, what do you do? If you have a moratorium on evictions, then they get stuck there. So this is one of those places where you can make a strong statement like this, but when it comes down to actually making public policy, we have to be careful about we implement these things so that they are done in a targeted way that has positive outcomes that we want, with all of these other negative outcomes that we often get when we write legislation too carelessly.
So again, if we're in favor of human rights, housing as a human right, then I do believe that we should have a moratorium, regardless of whether or not, with all due respect, if somebody is trashing the apartment or the home, we should probably find out why they're actually doing that. I know when I was in college 20 years ago, my roommates and I decided to have a piñata in the living room. And we kind of trashed the living room, right? You know, we were kids. So the point is, let's find out the reason why perhaps people are vandalizing or trashing. Because if we are about, housing as a human right, then in principle, we should be about a moratorium. Thank you.
All right, so our next questions are going to be about peace and security. Would you vote for arms for Israel? Yes or no? Is Israel committing genocide? Would you vote for aid to Ukraine? Would you vote to reduce the defense budget? I have a lot of experience with that one. Should we defend Taiwan if China attacks? And then, do you support halting military operations and negotiating an end to the war in Iran? So our question we had a disagreement on is, should we defend Taiwan if China attacks?
So my answer to this one is yes. I believe in freedom. I believe in self-determination. I don't believe that any nation has a right to own people just because they feel entitled to that land because of some imperial history that they believe in. So allowing China to take Taiwan would set a terrible precedent. And would be bad for us from a strategic standpoint, but we just get 90% of our high-end chips from Taiwan. So if China takes that, then all of a sudden all of our high-tech industry is going to be cut off. But ultimately what this comes down to for me is freedom. It's the same reason that I support the freedom of people in Ukraine. I don't want to see what happened to Hong Kong happen to Taiwan. And I think we need to retain a credible threat when it comes to Taiwan so that China does not act. Because I do not believe that China actually does want war. But if we make it clear, like, okay, well, we're not going to come to Taiwan's defense, then you might as well sign Taiwan off to being ruled by the Chinese Communist Party right now. And their freedom will be gone, their free society will be gone, and I don't want to see that happen. As somebody who believes in freedom and democracy, I think that America stands for that. And I think it's important for us to defend the freedom of other nations.
I completely agree. I completely agree. We do need to be fighting for freedom and for liberty and peace for everybody. But at the same time, I don't want to go into World War III. I have to be concerned about what our country can actually do. And I'm sorry, but if it's going to cause greater human suffering, yeah, I'm going to have to make a hard choice on that. I don't know. This is extremely contextual, but I am about limiting human suffering, and if it causes less death and less destruction across the globe, less disruption to economies and people's way of lives, then it's a choice that I'm going to have to sit up with and see what we can do about. I said yes, no to that. It's not a solid no, but it's a hard choice.
So I am all for following the rules of the road in international relations as consistently as possible. There's a reason why after World War II, we created international institutions like the United Nations, NATO, Marshall Plan, which set the stage for the European Union. It is critical that we be as consistent as possible in terms of democracy, in terms of human rights, for a variety of reasons. But I'll keep my remarks short. We are, as a country, about 5% of the world population. We consume about 25% of consumption, and we have about 800 military bases around the world, the most of any set of countries combined. That is not sustainable when we do not follow the rules of the road that have kept us safe and prosperous for decades, as imperfect as they are, right? And we're seeing kind of the end of the US empire as we know it in Iran as we speak. And that is precisely the reason why we must strive to be as consistent as possible, because it's simply not sustainable. And this is the reason why I would support no further arms to Israel, because what is happening now is counterproductive to those rules of the road and is against not only Israel's national interest, but our national interest as well.
All right, thank you. A lot of really great discussions, but we are running short on time, so we have a lot of questions to get through, so we're really going to make it a speed round. So if you guys could just limit your responses to 30 seconds if you really want to, say something. So law and order and accountability. Do you want to abolish ICE? Yes or no? All right. Will you accept APAC money? Will you accept corporate PAC donations? Would you push for Donald Trump's impeachment? Should oil companies pay damages for climate change? Should wage theft carry criminal penalties? Should ownership of military-style rifles be restricted? Do you support banning private prisons? Do you support decriminalizing marijuana? Do you or should the Confederate flag be banned from display on public buildings? And then do you support the land back movement? All right, the only question we had was, will you accept corporate PAC donations?
I said no. It's a big part of my campaign. Well, a lot of what we're seeing right now is because all of these big corporation monopolies, the billionaires, they are paying off everybody in our government. It's really hard to vote against somebody's interest when they are giving you $1 million, 200K. They're funding everything for you for years. It's very hard to not vote for what they want. And I think that is a huge part of why our democracy is eroding, is we are taking money from foreign influence PACs like APAC, and we're taking money from billionaires who their corporations and what they want don't always align with what working class people want and what they need. And when you're being voted in by working class regular Americans, but you are taking money from corporations and voting for them, it's a conflict of interest, and it goes against the entire meaning of public service to me.
I think it's naive to think that you can't accept some money, perhaps. But look, if REI wants to get at me with, some of their corporate culture money, or Costco or something like that, I can have the conversation, because it takes money to be able to run a campaign, and I can pick and choose who I want to do business with. But if Blackstone wants to get at me, fuck yourself.
Good one, Mark. All right, so our next round is going to be on science, technology, energy, and transportation. Do you support a moratorium on any new data centers? Do you support nuclear power? Should climate change be treated as a national emergency? Should we prohibit the development of artificial general intelligence? Do you support national high-speed rails? And then, would you prioritize funding for rail infrastructure in our community over a new highway?
Is that a word question?
No. Would you prioritize funding for rail infrastructure over? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So the only question we had was, do you support nuclear power?
Yes, I do support nuclear power because I care a lot about climate change, and we've reached the point where it's big poison. And I don't want to continue producing more carbon, and I think nuclear power doesn't produce carbon. Obviously, it produces other waste, and we have to deal with where we put that waste, and that's a huge problem right now. But in principle, the world is going to continue to need more power. I don't know that we can meet all of those power needs with renewables and batteries. If we can, that would be preferable because it's cheaper, it's faster to build, it's easier, and it's cleaner. But I don't know that it's going to be the solution everywhere. So I don't want to say no to nuclear power. I'm not a huge fan of nuclear power. It's enormously expensive. They take an extremely long time to build. They're expensive to decommission. So there are problems with it that we need to work out. But it's not something that I want to say no to because of the fact that climate change is an emergency. So this is one of those things where it's I'm willing to do this because we have to get this done in order to stop pumping carbon into the atmosphere.
I've done a lot of research on nuclear. There are a lot of pros, there are a lot of cons. It can be a great, source of energy. It has, like I said, it has a lot of pros. Some of the things that worry me, which is why I said is when the state that they want to put the waste in is our state. We have Yucca Mountain, Harry Reid, fought to stop that, and my concern is there are safe ways to deal with the waste and everything, but the leaks still happen, accidents still happen, and if we are, transporting it across, states into our state, we've already had issues with irradiation, we've already had issues with nuclear bomb testing here. So many people for so many generations got sick here. So this is kind of a Nevada first thing for me, but if we were gonna pursue nuclear energy, the states producing it are gonna have to deal with the waste in their states and not just all ship it off to Nevada is one of my main concerns for nuclear energy, but I'm not a full no on it. I would like to see, I would like to talk to more scientists and all of that, so.
Sorry to cut you off. Okay, next is economy, taxes, wealth, and the budget. Do you support a wealth tax? Are billionaires bad for America? Okay. Should mining companies pay royalties? Will you vote for budgets that increase the deficit? And then do you support right-to-work laws? Do you support a federal jobs guarantee? Okay. So a couple of questions here. So the first one is, are billionaires bad for America? Bad billionaires.
Yeah, not all billionaires are bad, right? George Soros has helped lead many progressive efforts. That's one billionaire. Tom Steyer, who's running for governor, cares very much about climate. He's a billionaire. So I think the better question is not whether billionaires are good or bad, but did the billionaire make their money in a way that is not fair to the rest of us, right? And so in the case of Tesla and Amazon and the mining industry, they are clearly not paying their fair share. And this is why I want to fund a universal basic income by having them pay their fair share.
I disagree. There's no ethical way to, commit billions of dollars. We're at a point in our society where it's just unsustainable, and quite frankly, what do you need $400 billion for? What do you even need $1 billion for? You will never be able to spend all of that. Your children will never be able to spend all of that. We have so many problems going on in the world, in this country, in this state, that it's just not something that needs to happen. You could live a good life and you could be rich and everything without, having billions of dollars. And a lot of the ways that in America they become billionaires is through unethical means, that they paid a lot of politicians to open these loopholes and to allow these deregulations and to allow these things to happen so that they can hoard all of this wealth, and it's just unethical, and they don't need that money. And I am a huge fan of taxing them out of existence. I believe in about out of $500 million, maybe $1 billion, but after that, it just needs to all be taxed.
I completely agree, but for kind of other reasons. Money is power. I did not elect these people, but they have more of a voice than I do. You do, and all of us combined in a lot of cases. There's a guy who's running right now who has, millions and millions of dollars that he can self-fund with. That is more power, and it can change things for the rest of us. If I don't elect you, you do not get to have that kind of power over me. I'm sorry, but billions, No way.
Piggyback on that, that's why we need to get money out of politics. So ban big money amendment. I like to push back on the idea that billionaires have earned that money. They have acquired that money because the way of our system is constructed. I don't think anybody actually earns $1 billion. And just like we have a minimum wage, we should have maximum wealth. Congratulations, you won capitalism. You hit the cap. You've succeeded beyond everybody's wildest dreams. And now you can go on and do something else with your life. But if you want to continue to make more money, well, that's not going to go to you. It's going to go to something else. So if you really like building stuff like that, that's fine. But you hit the top limit. I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. And having these too much power and way too much influence over our society. And we're seeing that right now. Like, we have billionaires fighting over our politics, and we can't be heard because they have so much influence and power. So we just need to cut that off at a top level. I think that would make things at least a little bit better.
All right, our next question. Will you vote for budgets that increase the deficit?
Yeah, I'm a hard no on this one. Like, we're closing in on our national debt being 120% of our GDP. We currently have a president who has alienated the entire world. People are looking for options to the dollar. So we've benefited tremendously from the dollar being the reserve currency of the world. And if that goes away, and if we have all of this massive debt, we could see a debt crisis in this country. So we need to start getting real about taking care of the deficit and the debt. Now, I am somebody who wants to raise taxes on the wealthy. I want us to pay for the government that we get. Like, I think it's insane that we're borrowing money from rich people in order to pay for our operations and then paying them interest for the privilege when we could be taxing them instead. So if we want to do more stuff, we need to pay for it. And continuing to add to the deficit in order to get the stuff that we want, it's going to be a self-destructive policy in the long run. So I would not support that.
Yeah, very similar reasons. I kind of said yes, no, because in my mind, if we are taxing the wealthy to pay for the things that we need and rebalancing the budget, cutting back on our defense budget a little bit, I don't think we will need to raise the deficit because it will be funded through other means. So.
You know, we spent upwards of a few $trillion on wars in the Middle East, and nobody batted an eye. We just spent over $200 million in 2 weeks in another war in the Middle East. Nobody seems to be batting an eye. It's only when we want to be spending this money on ourselves that people want to put the brakes on. I want massive infrastructure. I want a national rail system, the likes of which this country has never seen. I want something that is akin to the National Highway Project. And the only way to get there is through massive spending. But what is that spending going to be going to? Jobs, communities, education, things like that. I had an economics teacher who once told me that the dumbest thing you could possibly do with national budgets was to build something that's going to blow up or need maintenance until it's basically irrelevant, like a tank. But if you build a train, something that's going to be useful for decades, half a century, that everybody's going to be using, it builds back into the economy. So I'm for that.
All right, our last question. Do you support a federal jobs guarantee?
I know I said no to this one. I'm not sure how it would work, and I have not seen a workable proposal yet. And I don't know how we would pay for it. We're already asking that question right now when it comes to the deficit. So I said no because I don't see how it would be practical at this point. But it's not something that I have looked extensively into, so I'm not going to stand up here and say that I'm authority on it, that I'm not. And not that I could not be convinced if there was some kind of workable proposal, but that's not something that I see. So that's why I said no.
Sorry, you guys keep hearing from me, I guess. Has anybody here ever heard of the CCC? Civilian Conservation Corps. All right. So that was something that was started up in the 1930s after the Great Depression. It was a jobs program, but we got something out of it. We have people who were getting trained. Our national park system basically relied on that kind of labor. Right now, we have a huge fire risk out here in the West. Paying people to manage fires, paying people to build infrastructure, this is not a waste of money. This is something that is going to, again, be going into communities. It's going to be giving people something useful to do, and it's going to be giving us better things for our country. So I am for that. If that comes in the form of a CCC or some other like program, look for it on my website. I've got a whole plan on that.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on what both of them said. The Great Depression, right? There was multiple projects around federal jobs guarantee, Keynesian economics and stuff like that to stimulate the economy. However, I would actually like to study the feasibility of, rather than the government paying for a jobs guarantee, is actually having the billionaires pay their fair share by transferring some of that money into federal jobs guarantee.
All right, so we've come to the end. One last round. So, education. Do you support charter schools? All right, do you support school vouchers?
Let's go back to the first one.
Okay, back to one. Do you support charter schools? Ooh, okay. Do you support school vouchers? And then, do you support free public college? All right, so our last discussion is going to be about, do you support charter schools? I think everyone had a different answer.
So I had kind of a yes/no because there's a lot of different types of charter schools. However, the ones that I would be opposed to are ones that are taking a lot of public funds, a lot of kids from just public schools that are essentially, but we're essentially doubling the amount of money we're spending on K through 12 education without seeing any real benefit. And it has also been shown here in Nevada that a lot of the charter schools are disproportionate when it comes to economic equality and racial equality.
I don't know a whole super lot, but yeah, I would like to get to the point where our public schools are good enough that we don't really need to supplement with things like charter schools. I know a lot of people choose charter schools for various different reasons. A lot of those reasons go back to a broken public, education system. So if we can get that better and get that going, I don't really think there would be a need for charter schools. But overall, I'm not an expert on charter schools, so that's why I was kind of like a yes, no, but I do believe, if our public schools are better and where we would like them to see, like across the country, we wouldn't really need charter schools, so.
I guess I'm old enough to remember when charter schools got started. I remember the original idea of charter schools was that they were supposed to be laboratories of innovation. We would have these charter schools, they would experiment with stuff, and we were supposed to take the good things that we learned from charter schools and bring them back into the public schools and use them to improve the public school system. That has completely fallen by the wayside. So charter schools have effectively become a parallel system of education that are now being used to undermine public schools. And if you look at the research on charter schools, they don't necessarily do better than the public schools, but people like to have the option of go to them, so they'll go to the charter school that's good. So I'm not opposed to the charter schools in the sense of the original idea of them, that they were supposed to give us ways to experiment with things that we can then use to improve the public schools, but I do not support the way that they have become a parallel system of education and are currently undermining public schools. So I think we need to get back to that original idea. I am a huge supporter of public schools. I think they're central to communities. I think they're foundational to our democracy. I think it's one of the things that keeps us together as a people, and we need to be putting a lot more emphasis into making sure that our public schools are high quality And we expect a lot from our public schools. Oh, there's 90 seconds. Good job.
All right. So that brings us to the end of our speed round. So we do have a couple more minutes, so I'm going to take the time to talk about myself and my campaign. I just want to thank everyone for coming out and all the candidates. I mean, I'm super excited. It's really cool to be up here and hear everyone's great ideas and thinking about one of you guys, as our CD2 representative and being up in Congress and actually making these changes about us here in Nevada. So that's pretty cool. And you all are rock stars, and I really wish everyone the best of luck in running for CD2. I mean, I wish I could vote for you all, and I wish everyone could be a winner. I guess that's my woke liberalness in me. I wish we could all just be winners and send you all to Congress, but
it's more representation.
Exactly, yeah, more representation. So we do have some time for a couple of questions from the audience. If anyone has any really burning questions they would like to ask of our candidates. Yep. If you want to come up here and take the mic so we can all hear you.
Okay.
Here she comes.
Hi, so for everybody, so I've only lived in Nevada for 2 years, but I campaigned a little bit for Catherine Cortez Masto when I was promoted and for Jackie Rosen in 2024. I have several times been disappointed in Senator Cortez Masto and even a few times for Senator Rosen. So I'm just curious to hear from all of you, how would you work with our senators in order to ensure, as much progressive legislation and policy as we can get? And when you do need to stand up against them, how would you approach that constructively?
Yeah, so CD2 is not a joke. We, in my opinion, maybe I'm biased, we are one of the most powerful congressional districts in Nevada, and the reason for that is because most of the mining's up here, most of the agriculture is up here, most of the public lands are up here. We are a huge powerhouse for our state for multiple reasons, and what we have a huge sway, and also landmass wise, we are half the state. If you guys look at a map of our congressional districts, we are literally the entire northern half of the state. That's a huge district, which most of it is land, but land talks, and having a big district like that also talks. And so when it comes to talking with our senators, when you have half the state as your district, that does mean things. And when you have a district that is more nonpartisan and more red, and you're a senator and you rely on those votes as well to keep your seat in a state like this, that is also a huge thing. And I believe in building coalitions and having a good relationship with our senators and with our other House of Reps, but also we have to recognize that CD2 has its own uniqueness and its own power that we can use to push back on our senators and on the other House of Representatives when we need to. And it doesn't have to be inflammatory, it doesn't have to be drama or crazy, but it is something that we can leverage and we can use to better our state and to make sure that all of us are on the same page when we really need to push progressive policies.
I completely agree with you. Look, you're not going to agree with everybody all the time. I'm absolutely willing to build bridges. It's literally my thing. But at the same time, some things are not negotiable. I am not going to be making deals that harm people. I'm not going to be making deals that I think are going to reduce our well-being across this state, but across the nation, or even across the world. So if you want me to be sending money to Israel for guns, no, it's not going to happen. If you want me to be sending aid to Israel in the form of medicine and building supplies and things that I know are going to be helping Palestinians, yes, absolutely. So there are things that I think that I'm cool with, and things I'm going to be making a very hard line on.
Well, I like building coalitions. I like working together with people. And I can work with anybody. I can talk with anybody. So I will not have any problem working with Senators Cortez Masto and Jackie Rosen in order to get things done on the places where we agree. But I want to be clear on something. I am all about getting big money out of politics. And if you stand in the way of getting big money out of politics, I am going to come after you. So if Jackie Rosen and Cortez Masto would not get behind supporting the Big Money Amendment and actually voting for legislation to get big money out of politics, then I think they should be primary.
Honestly, mirroring most of what everyone else has been saying, that there are certain hard lines that we're not willing to negotiate on because the working people of this state have been needing someone to stand up for them. And we have seen our representatives fall short of that. And I think forcing them to say those things to show where their allegiances actually lie gives power to the people to primary them in the future.
What is non-negotiable is human rights, human dignity, and human freedom. This is why my campaign is about universal policies for all with a universal basic income. That will allow us to transfer from an extractive form of capitalism to a human-centered capitalism. That is non-negotiable. And so the way I would pressure both of these colleagues is through people power and grassroots. My wife is a scholar of grassroots movements. I kind of have like an unofficial master's because I listen to her a lot. And over the last year, really going back to 2024, one of the reasons why I volunteered on the Red Kid campaign is because I saw the political stars changing, and we saw very, very clearly through people power and grassroots that we forced our current congressman not to seek re-election, right? And so that is the carrot and the stick, if you will. Thank you.
Great, all. Thank you all. And so now we will conclude with 1 minute closing remarks from all of our candidates. So who'd like to go first? Let's start with you. Yeah.
So again, my name is Samuel White. I'm here with this group as a coalition because we want progressive policies, we want progressive politicians to come from grassroots movements who are anti-establishment, who are going to fight for working class people here in Nevada. And if that's not me, it's one of these people, I'm willing to get behind. But I think we need change, and we need the people. We need to hear from the people. So get out, vote, get your friends out to vote for the primaries.
Again, my name is Morgan Wadsworth, and kind of what I mentioned earlier, you know, this district in our state is a powerhouse, and it's not being used as such. With how much federal lands we have, we are touched by so many federal agencies, so our federal politicians do have a lot more leverage in the federal government than we are using, and you know, in Northern Nevada, we really need, after 15 years of a ghost congressman, we need something new, and we need somebody bold, and we need somebody that will leverage and will play hardball for our state and for our country, and it's not a negotiable. We really need to send somebody who's a real fighter and who has, you know, who really understands this district, both the urban and the rural parts, because again, this has Washoe County and then the rest of it is rural, and we have to bridge that gap. We have to come together, and we really need to use our power to do the most amount of good that we can for our state and our country. And again, my name is Morgan Wadsworth. I'm a 6th generation Nevadan, a 1st generation college student, and you know, I am also part of this pact and willing to step behind the strongest candidate to ensure that we get somebody who's a real progressive and a real fighter to DC for our state.
Folks, I embody both the potential and failures of our country. I'm Mexican American. My grandfather was a bracero brought during World War II to help the war effort, put food on the table. As a person that worked in the field, my mom as well, I was born in that environment. But because of economic inequality, I nearly died. And I'm very blessed to be here. And it really, that PhD in the School of Hard Knocks is that passion that I have to fight to transform a system that tried to bury me, like so many people, to reform it for the better and to make the world a better place. In addition to that, I have the academic excellence, I have the activism and campaign management experience for the last 10 years, and that universal economic platform for all, which I believe is the winning strategy. Thank you.
Again, my name is Mark Jolly. I'm looking down the road at the future. I want more. You guys should want more. Honestly, the fact that you're even out here tonight says that you do. I think we can have it, but I think we're going to need to be loud about it. I think we need to get pissed off. I think we need to have somebody in office who's actually going to stand up and say the things that we want them to say and not just capitulate to power. I agree with Josh. We need to get money out of politics, but we also need to have some material gains for us too. We need our lives to be easier. That's what I'm about. And I'm about making sure that everybody gets what they need at the end of the day. I can't get what I want unless you guys have it first. My name is Mark Jolly.
And my name is Josh Aber. Again, I am the fix the system guy, because I don't think that we get any of the things that we're talking about up here until we fix the system first. And we have seen this to be true for decades at this point. The system has not been delivering for us. And until we focus on that problem, we are going to struggle to get the things that we all want. So in order to do that, we need people who are going to go to Washington, who are going to do things differently, who are going to shake things up, who are trying to find ways to drive wedges in the system, to crack it apart and finally get this thing done. To start a movement to get big money out of politics, to really work on getting this republic working again so that it can deliver the material benefits that we all want. I have done this in my own life multiple times. I have brought change to places. It is what I do. I am bipolar. It makes me a little bit different than everybody else, and it's something that I have put a lot of work into overcoming, and it has made me the person that I am now, and is what makes me capable of being the different person and driving the change and seeing things differently in ways that people do not. So we need to send different people to Washington if we want to get different results.
Great, all right, thank you. And again, you guys are all rock stars, and thank you all for being here, and thank you for everyone here to be here. Just a reminder, early voting does start on Saturday, May 23rd, and then primary day is Tuesday, June 9th, so make sure you guys get out there and vote. And again, thank you to Coffee and Comics for having us here. And again, my name is Brad.